everyone. Welcome to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're back with another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us, he's a returning guest. Listen, man, this man makes some sick shit. He has a new film out right now that's called Killer Burger, which I had the pleasure of watching. He is the secular director. I have with us Stefan Perrin. Stefan, welcome back to the Horror Realm.
Thank you very much for having me again.
It's a pleasure. Now, listen, for my audience, tell them a little bit about Killer Burger.
Killer Burger started off as a script called Pox, and it was inspired by the monkeypox outbreak that took place in Canada and the US a few years back. And as I was writing the script, I realized that I was going to need almost like a secondary character. You know how in Batman 2, you had the Penguin and Catwoman. And I kind of found myself in a position where I could feature, two of the villains that I've created in my stories. And so I started incorporating the lab grown meat man and decided to change the script title to Killer Burger. And so it kind of confused people. They were asking questions, why'd you do that? There's a lot of horror movies out there, especially back in the day. They would actually release them with one name, and maybe it didn't really work out or they didn't get any kind of attention from it. And so they change the title and they re-release it, right? And then all of a sudden everyone likes it. So that's what kind of happened to me this time. And, I don't have any regrets about it. I was able to incorporate two short stories together to make one film.
Now, Stefan, one of the things that you do in your films, um, you have that dirty, grimy, gritty look to it, and that's something that I love. I'm an '80s kid and I grew up horror. I like to watch the horror movies where you're looking like, what the fuck am I watching? Is this something that's real? Is this something someone filmed in their basement? Tell us about your
Yeah.
style when it comes to that.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm taking I wish I could shoot all the time, like let's say on 16 millimeter, right? But unfortunately, in these days and times, I'm shooting like most people on a digital camera, a high definition. And what I've done over the years is I've tested various techniques. I've looked at various tutorials, and it's taken a long time to try and perfect that look. And I believe I've got the recipe now to do it. So I can take very bland looking shots and turn it very, I try and look at like the old Italian horror films from the 70s, and they really inspire me. And so I always want my films to look very gritty. Um, that underground look is very important to me. I can't seem to let it go. So I'm glad that you've picked up on that. I think it's what people are hungry for. And I think that's where I'm really filling in that nice niche is that, my movies, they do look like they're shot on 16 millimeter from the 80s. And as I said, I pride myself on being able to create that illusion.
And you speak about the underground. So the underground horror scene is kind of getting like I don't want to say a resurgence, but more eyes are getting on it. I know myself, like I'm starting to notice underground horror. What do you think about underground horror that is so fascinating to the casual watcher?
I think what's happening is that you have that group of people who really love, and I used to be like this. They really love going to their friends and saying, "Have you seen this underground movie?" Right? And then when someone says, "No, I haven't," right? It's really
Hmm.
exciting to show them.
Hmm.
And so the revival of VHS. DVD never really left, but there's also a resurgence in the collecting aspect. And I think where the underground is winning right now is that I think Hollywood is really, concentrated on trying to add content to their blank plus, streaming service. And the
Mhm.
underground is basically running tails around them. I've been in this business now since 2020, and I'm already on my fourth fucking movie. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but you let me know someone else who's done that. So, in Hollywood, and you just can't do it. And so I think that with a low budget B horror film, granted, the bar is set somewhat low because I do like making a really good shitty movie, but I think people are just hungry to discover what's going on out there outside of Hollywood. I think there's a need for excitement, and I think the underground brings excitement because I'm not following any kind of producer's rules or studio house. Like, I'm doing my own thing. And when you give someone 100% control of what it is they're going to pump out to the public, fuck, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit. And so I think I can get away with certain things that, maybe other studios would say, you know what, we need to pull that shot. But for me, I don't have to pull that shot. So, I just feel like I'm succeeding with being authentic, uncensored. And as soon as those things start happening, I think you would see a big change in what I do. But right now, I'm just like running my own thing here. I have mad respect for like Trauma and all these other places that in the past you had, as I said, we've talked about John Waters. Like, you've got people who are like controlling their own destiny, and they're giving you that grindhousey kind of underground that people, once they get a hold of that, going to watch, as I said, blank plus streaming service, it's just, it's tea and crumpets, and I'm serving something more.
And I mean, I totally agree with you. And but going back to even that grindhouse grungy look to it, is it because of the technology with cameras that it is? It seems like modern horror is too pretty, it's too clear, it's too.
It's too clear. Yeah, I agree with that. I remember watching a few 3D films when they first came out, like My Bloody Valentine, the remake, and stuff like that. And it was like, Piranha Double D. There was just like there was a lot happening, and I was younger, and I was really taking it in. But you get this 4K or whatever, and you're watching it on your 4K TV, and it looks fake. It doesn't even look real or good. Like, it's so crisp, it takes you out of that illusion. And so I rebel against that with every essence of my being. I refuse to ever make something that looks like that. I would rather die than have a Stephen Parent secular director, sorry, go in the direction of 4K or some sort of who knows what's coming up next? Is it 8K?
I think
I
say
don't want to
6K
sound
now.
old,
Yeah,
but
I think 6K. Yeah.
I so I've talked about with my circle of influence. I've talked to them about what it would be like to go and outsource a 16 millimeter camera and all that film, and find someone who's going to transfer it to digital so I can go ahead and edit it on my computer and see how that goes, to see if I can do it on the budgets I make these films. Some people say, well, if you've got your ones that crank or whatever, you could only get a 10-second shot. So, I'm curious to see how that would go. But what I have going right now, I can get both worlds. I can shoot in a modern tech and make it look old, and it seems to please the audience. So for the time being, I'll do that. But I do have some very strong desires to try old technology to make a movie. Like 16 millimeter film. If I was to do, let's say, a lost footage movie, I would totally do it just like Blair Witch, and get a video camera, like a crappy video camera from the secondhand shop, get some tapes and do it, and then maybe try 8 millimeter or try 16. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, because I mean, I agree. I mean, I should watch horror movies back in the day, and you would see it. It would be kind of almost dark, and you'd be like, "Is that something in the shadow?" And that kind of built the tension. But now you can see the fucking shadow. You can see, okay, there's nothing there, and it kind
Yeah.
of just ruins the atmosphere for me as a horror fan.
Oh, yeah. Like the worst is seeing somebody in a car, and what may have possibly been achievable at deceiving that they were not actually in a studio, that it looked like they were shooting while they were actually driving. But then when you see it in 4K, they're obviously in front of a green screen. As I said, it takes you out of the fantasy. And as a filmmaker, I'm just asking for an hour and a half of your time. Sit back, have some popcorn, have some laughs, and enjoy a great night in, right? So if you're going to watch something that doesn't keep you in that fantasy, what are you doing?
Exactly. Now let's talk about my experience watching Killer Burger. So
Okay.
I'm a huge Full Moon Trauma fan. I like a good fucked up horror movie, but also has a sense of humor and a light tone. Yeah. And that's something that Killer Burger did so well.
Thank you.
Now, you're welcome. And I understand it took you 2 years production wise for this film. Why
It
so
did.
long?
Well, unfortunately, in Canada, as much as we like to deny it, we have very long winters. And so I actually started shooting for Killer Burger in the fall of 2023. I let winter go and started up again in the spring. And this movie was very challenging for me because it was the first time that I really needed to network and meet new actors, people who wanted to give this a shot. I do live quite in a very rural part of the province, and so I just think that if I could round it up in a few sentences, it was definitely a movie where I had to find the people to be in this film. I had to find them. Some of them were already on my Instagram. Others were people that I met at trade shows, like physical media trade shows, and people would say, "Oh, like I would like to be an actor in your film," and I would literally line it up the next month and get all those shots done. And so I worked all last year on it, and then winter came again before I could finish. And so I was literally shooting the ends of these film, like the end of this film, I was basically shooting it and then editing it that night. Like it was just like this locomotion that just kept getting pieced, like piece by piece by piece, until it was like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm finally done. But boy, there were nights where I would stay up and just be like, oh my god, this movie's never going to get done. It's a year behind. I have people who want to buy this movie and it's not finished. So it was a bit stressful this time for me. I usually will get a movie done in a year, but now I understand why you don't pump one out every year. It's pretty hard to do. So, I think that one every 2 years is a very realistic goal for me. If I can get one done in a year, I will. So I'm already working on 2 scripts right now, which is the first time I've ever done that. I've never written 2 stories at the same time. But I'm at a point now with this fourth film that like it just seems like so much is going on around me with the release of it that it's obvious that I'm going to have to buckle down a bit more and try and get some scripts done so that I can work on these projects. Because as I said, when winter comes in Canada, nothing happens unless you're doing it inside. And if you'll notice, I really love shooting outdoors as well as indoors. So I do require some decent weather. And believe it or not, the summers in Canada are hot as hell. And so there's been times where I have been shooting and it's so humid outside that my camera literally fogs up. And so I've realized that spring and fall are really the times to hit it. And if you're not ready for spring, if your script isn't ready and your actors aren't all lined up and you've got all your costumes and locations set up, you're fucked. You're going to have to wait till the fall. So I think every 2 years is realistic where you're going to hear from me as far as with a new Stefan Perrin secular director movie.
Now, when you talking about casting, normally is it pretty hard for you to cast, especially when you're doing such a off the wall underground type film? Is it hard to find mainstream indie actors and actresses that are willing to be a part of your project?
I've had good luck with that. This particular film, the people I usually work with weren't available, so I was like, okay, I think everybody has gone through this as a director. I'm sure that it happens to everybody. Sometimes the ones that you're prepared to work with aren't available, so you have to start branching out, and that's where the extrovert in me really kind of helps out. And so, like, I usually pitch it in a way that's comical. I'll say to people, you've got 2 options. Like, are you trying to get into the business? Like, are you trying to be an actor? If you are, I have an underground film studio. This will help your resume, right? And then you've got the more like rebellious people that I know. And so I've approached them and I've said to them, jokingly, do you want to hurt your family by embarrassing yourself in front of the whole world? And there's people who are like that, like they have that punk rock life and they're
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Like, I love the underground. So I work with 2 types of people. So I think that my next film, which is going to be called Don't Douche in the Shower, and I've always wanted a don't film, so I finally get one. But this time around, with the subject matter, like I'm sure that I'm going to have to make this movie rated X, which is hot. But I also
Yeah.
think that it's going to take a certain type of people to be in this next movie, which I'm willing to find. And I've actually already started looking. So it's the thing about my life. It seems like it's always moving and shaking. Even if you've got 2 years to make a movie, even in the winter, I'm busy thinking, I'm busy writing, I'm busy getting ready for the spring. So, as I said, like, I'm hoping to find some more rebellious type people this time.
Now, you like to keep your identity a secret, which is, which is reasonable for the industry in. You know what I mean? Now, if I was on set, are you in cloak the full time, or do I get to see your face?
No, I mean, like, I only do this for the cameras and
Okay.
media and stuff like that. Like, this is the persona that I give. Um, it's a brand. the Grim Reaper or whatever it is that you want to compare me to. It's something that is very common throughout many cultures across the planet, and so it's recognizable. And that is where I think I get a lot of, I think I get a lot of boost because I look different. But when I'm working, and there's times I'm actually in the film uh, dressed like this, but I'm also outside costume like this as well. And I also do a lot of voice acting. So I'm able to throw my voice. I'm able to work with different programs and like change the way I sound in order to, work in the voiceover booth. But yeah, when you're working with me, I can't work with this. Like it's there's too much polyester all over the place. Like I'd be knocking over lights and cameras. I can't even really see through this. In order to see, I have to put a veil that you would have a woman wear at a funeral. And as I said, I don't need to dress up for my actors or my crew. They all know what I look like. I don't take it that far. Dude, I wish I did though.
That'd be
Seriously.
awesome.
I wish I could
That
go
would be
out.
awesome.
I wish I could go out like this to the fucking grocery store, and have people shop for me while I wave my hand around like this. But like it's not practical. But this look was an old Halloween costume, and during my first film, Glory Hole Death Trap, I had a mishap where I was holding the camera and my audio guy was holding the boom mic, and we got too far apart, and so the cord that was connecting the camera and the boom mic it glitched, it tugged, and so I lost audio for a whole scene, and I didn't realize it until like it was too late. Usually I check all my shots. This time I was in a rush. I was like, fuck it, let's just keep going. We're behind today. Let's just go. Well, when I'm looking at my dailies, there's no audio. And I said to myself, how the hell am I going to get around this? And so basically I came up with the idea of narrating. And I was like, well, who's going to narrate? And I said, well, I'm the director. I'm pretty secular guy. So I was like, maybe I'll create this like, Tales from the Crypt or some sort of like character brand that shows up in all the films. And in this particular one, I'm going to narrate because I got to save my ass. I can't reshoot this. All my actors are gone. And so I put on this outfit and I went into the the voiceover booth, and I started narrating the movie. And there you go. Stephan Perrin, secular director, like what you see here, was born out of complete serendipity. Like it was not meant to be. It just kind of like happened. And I realized that I had something there. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to just stick with this. And as I said, like 5 years in, I'm like one of the most recognized underground film directors in Canada, at least. And I owe it all to, looking different. And so, I'm not telling every director they need to like get into some sort of like, outfit or costume or whatever. But it helps. It helps because people are like, who the fuck is that? Like, who is this guy? Right. And they tune in, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know what? I totally get it. Like, I get this guy. And so there it is.
Yeah, because our first interview got so many fucking views, and it was because the thumbnail is made with a guy wearing a veil, like it's a black, and people were just curious, who in the hell is he interviewing? What is that?
Yeah. And what is
It
this
definitely
person?
worked.
What's this guy going to say?
Exactly.
So, what does he do? Like, is he a bum? Like, well, a lot of people think artists are bums, but
Hmm.
I'm not a bum. It's just that, like, I like being different. I have always been different. I was like very into grunge in high school, and grunge was like the new punk, in the 90s. And I did it all. Like, I wore those torn baggy sweaters and the plaid shirts and like the striped socks, and I colored my hair and I didn't give a shit. And then I discovered goth, because there were certain bands like Smashing Pumpkins, for instance, or Nine Inch Nails, all like in the 90s, the counterculture was pop culture. Before NSYNC and Spice Girls came out, like the 90s was really the last definable like decade in my opinion, and there was like lots of shit going on. You had Garbage, you had like Portishead, you had Tricky, you had all these like bands from Germany that were singing like Rammstein, and like it was just a really exciting time. And so like goth was like really big for me for a very long time, and it never left. And so like to get dressed up like this, it feels right, like it just feels dark. It feels like blackness, like darkness. Like it's just very, I don't know. Like I kind of feel like if I didn't have this, I would just be some fucking schmuck, that's talking about some shitty film. But this allows me to just sort of like, express myself, and people aren't so concerned about my age, my race, what I look like. Um, I just kind of seem to just sort of like blend into the background, and I just, present underground films. And you know what? I can get as old and as fat and ugly as I want, and no one will ever be the wiser. So, it's somewhat of a confidence thing as well to be able to present yourself like this and ask to be taken seriously, but in the same breath, like I don't take my art too seriously, obviously, but I like to entertain. And so I think this is what entertainment is in 2025, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree because I mean, I even after our first interview, I was like, damn, maybe I should have started my show off where I just wear the cloak and people didn't know what I looked like, who the fuck I was. If I can't do that now because you did it, but I was like, fuck, that would have been people would have watched. I mean, I could have did horror movie reviews, whatever, just went with like a deep, like people would have definitely tuned in
Yeah. I've had people send
because
me
of that
photos.
mystery factor.
Yeah, it's mysterious, but I've had people send me photos of themselves like dressed like this, or they've sent me AI where they like this because it just intrigues them. They like that, they like the Lord of the Rings, or they like druids, or they like whatever, right? And as I said, multiple cultures have like some sort of like thing that they know that sort of looks like this. So, it is what it is. But the Killer Burger film, this particular time, I threw myself in there quite a bit, but it was always meant to be that way. I wanted the whole concept of the gorilla to be somewhat comical, but also, some AI, a little bit of cybernetics, without getting too heavy. I wanted I wanted there to be some elements of films I've been very, inspired by. And so, you know, I hope that when people are writing, I hope that they do draw from their inspirations. I was inspired by Night of the Demon. I was inspired by Silent Night, Bloody Night. I was inspired by Mommy Dearest. And so I just wanted to really give some spoofs and some Easter eggs to those that recognize those films. But it was a hard one to write. It was a hard one to shoot. Um, you know, that gorilla costume, I bought that from China. It was an American website. And I had no idea that my product that I was ordering from an American website was going to be something that was, made in China and sent to me from China. So if I could just talk about this for a moment. So I
Mhm.
I look all over hell for this gorilla costume because I wanted a real fucking gorilla, something that looked like a real gorilla. And I found it. And it was this costume shop that also did things like mascots. So they worked in very large scale costuming. And I saw what they had for a gorilla. Oh my God, it was so fucking amazing. I was like, this is so amazing. So I order it. It was fucking expensive, right? The Canadian dollar and American dollar are different. And so I I get this package and I open it, and oh my God, it looked like something from fucking like a dollar store. Like it was a piece of
Oh,
shit. And I'm like, I can't fucking even show like the face of this because it's so bad. I couldn't show the hands, I couldn't show the feet. And so, slowly I started outsourcing. I found some hands, I found some feet, I found a different head. And so I was able to start working with the costume a lot better, but it never looked the way it was supposed to. And I remember sitting down and talking to my partner and saying, this is gonna fucking flop. Like my monster, my main monster, I can't even show it, you know? And he had this documentary of Steven Spielberg making Jaws. And Steven Spielberg was talking about how he had perfected what he thought would be this shark, but it was I guess created in fresh water. And so when they brought it out for shooting, it sank or something right away because they were shooting in the ocean. It was salt water, and so his main prop wasn't working, and he basically was in panic mode and thinking, what am I going to do and stuff like that. And I was like in the same situation. Now, of course, I'm not comparing myself to Steven Spielberg, but the situation is that he used things like POVs and silhouette, and he changed his shooting structure to accommodate the massive fuck up. And I had to do the same thing in this one. And I'm very happy with how it turned out. I got to do a lot of those old kind of Hollywood shots with just the hand, and those 70s Sasquatch movies that you'd watch, with just the hand and the POV walking through the forest. I was fucking living making this film. I admit that. I had the time of my life. As difficult as this one was, I loved it. It was very rewarding to be able to walk the same path as other directors did, using, just a hand or a silhouette or a far shot. And, as I was editing the movie, I realized, you know what? This worked out just fine. It really did. Now, with the lab grown meat man, I had envisioned special effects where the hamburgers were going to actually be more like gremlins or something, and just like killing people left and right and crawling all over the floor. And you know, I wanted it to be like more, right? But I realized in like early in the game, the special effects are too expensive. I don't want to use AI particularly because I still feel like practical special effects are better for me. And so I feel more comfortable with a puppet and having someone puppeteer and costumes. I prefer that, but I really wanted to throw a bit more money in this and have, like, as I said, like hamburgers, really attacking people. But because it was difficult finding all, like, I needed probably like 5 more actors if I was going to do that as well, which I didn't have. So I had to just stick with, like, making like 1950s newscasts with like the ape and with the hamburgers and stuff, and decided to make this puppet of a creature. And I would have the actors hold it above their head, and I would shoot from below, and I was getting height, I was getting movement. I wanted more, of course, but like I just felt like it was enough. And if I ever do make a sequel to this, then perhaps maybe I can I can sort of work off this first one and really go for like the killer burgers, like as though like there's an infestation of killer burgers. A huge, like, I set it up for there was going to be a huge burger, which I thought was fucking hilarious. But again, with the limitations of my green screen studio and like getting video and creating movement and special effects, I just didn't have the budget for it. So I think if I do make a second one, I would be tempted to do like Piranha and Piranha 2, where like I would actually put wings on the burgers or something.
I would fucking love that. I would love
Or
that.
just like have
I would
them
love
fly,
that.
like have some fly and attack people's necks and stuff. Like really get into that and make it really cool. So, there's that option, right? But I think my next film though is going to be the Don't Douche in the Shower.
I
And
love that title.
yeah, yeah, it's a great title, I think. It's
Love
going
it.
to be about a zombie with a shitty ass. And, instead of the traditional, um, you know, um, pestilence that's in the mouth of the zombie, and usually the bite or whatever is what gets you. In Don't Douche in the Shower, it's going to be that zombie's dirty asshole and how it
Oh,
gets. So I'm not going to give it away, but there's going to be a lot of scat, I think, in this.
you have to. You have to.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really hilarious. I think it's probably going to be a hit. So, and then I'm thinking of doing a second Dracula. I'm also thinking of doing a second Killer Burger and really hitting it with the burgers this time. Like that's what I'm thinking. So if this one is just a setup, it's okay to do that, And people recognize in my movies that my characters often will, mishmash and follow each other and stuff. And I've created these characters so I could use them. So if they work in the script, I'm going to use them. If not, I'm just going to start straight up fresh. But yeah, I'm really excited about the next project. But right now, I'm in the whole Killer Burger thing right now, and as I said, it's keeping me very busy. I've been going to trade shows left, right, and center, and selling my product, and people are buying it. We have a big Buy Canada thing happening right now too because of the trade war with the United States, right? So when these young people, even the old folks too, like when they walk by and they see local underground films, they're like, oh, here, take my money, right? Because I want to support you because of the trade war. And I'm like, all right, sure, support me, like I'm okay with it. I think a lot of people are just throwing uh, the trade war around like it's like this national pride or something. But I think that because Donald Trump has been saying in particular he wants Canada to be the 51st state. Um, I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing about it. But it's like, it's terrifying but intriguing at the same time, right? Because
It really is. It really is.
if we were all one country, then I wouldn't have this border that's keeping me away from all y'all, because the vast majority of my fan base is in the US. In fact, when I tell them I'm Canadian, a lot of them are shocked. So, they think I'm like some crazy guy living in Texas or something. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I live in Ontario, Canada. So, I'm very intrigued to see what happens. We'll see what happens. Like, that's all I can say.
It's out
I
of our
know
hands. Yeah.
that Trump wants to also put 100% tariffs on foreign films. And even though I'm an underground entity, I'm still a foreign film. So I'm selling my movies right now for $10 a pop. If he puts those tariffs in, then I got to charge $20 a movie to my American customers. So hopefully that works out for me. I really don't know what to say, but the Canadian fans have been blowing my mind. So, I think that one way or the other, it's going to work out. But I wish there wasn't like these like what ifs or these barriers that are possibly coming my way. But I've always rolled with the punches, so I'll just stick with it.
And that's all we can do, my friend. Now,
Yeah,
Stefan.
like the only thing I can think of is like maybe I'll slap a sticker that says "Made in Canada," the 51st state. So, anyway.
Well, let's hope for the best, my friend. Now, listen, where can everyone listen? Not everybody's going to get a screener like I did. Well, where can everyone else find or get their copy of Killer Burger, I should say?
Well, I've got my own distribution company. You can contact me on Instagram, send me a DM, add me, and let me know what you'd like to buy. That's usually how people get a hold of me. As I said, I am in the underground, so I'm still working towards trying to get my products on Amazon. I have to sell 300 copies of a title before I can get on there, which seems like a small number, but sometimes it's a little bit harder than you might think. And so I'm trying to see if I can expand to the world on Amazon as a store. But right now I'm doing it all out of my house. So like I've got a property out in the country, and I've got a big barn, and I've got like lots of land. And so it allows me to make films. I have an office, and so my day is often taking orders, shipping them out, and getting ready for the next film. And so it is a business, and it's doing me all right. So I'm not going to regret this choice in my life, but I'm kind of also scared of what it would be like if it was busier, because I'm doing everything I can to stay ahead of like the game. And that includes, taking orders, creating, burning, dubbing, and so sometimes I think maybe it's going to be, if things get any bigger, I'm going to need a staff. Like I'm going to need a secretary, and a technician to come in and fill orders for me, and allow me more time to work on my art. But for right now, I'm handling it okay. I hope everyone that picks up a camera and writes a script, I hope that they experience what I'm experiencing right now, because it's so rewarding. to know that there's people out there who are looking for your work and who appreciate you. It still blows my mind. So I hope for everyone that does this, and you can't, you can't compare yourself to others is the only advice I can give you, but you got to try. And if you try, if you build it, they will come, is what I've always been told, and it's what I always say.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. Listen, everyone, get your asses over to Instagram and hit up my man, Stefan. Grab your copy of Killer Burger.
Thank you very
Amazing
much.
movie. It's an amazing movie. It's fun. If you like that batshit crazy stuff, like Trauma and that old school Christopher Band, Full Moon stuff, this is right up your alley.
Thank you.
Stefan, it's always a blast to have you on, my friend. Always a
Yes,
blast.
and you keep doing what you're doing, Travis, and I look forward to talking to you again.
In 2 years.
Talking to you feels very natural. So,
Yes.
it's kind of almost difficult to stay on topic of the movie because I just enjoy talking so much. So,
You too, my friend.
you have a great night, and I hope everything is okay in Baltimore. And you take care.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. And I look forward to talking to you about don't douche in the shower. Can that
Yeah, and
yes, that sounds
I'll
amazing.
leave you with this. I'll leave you with this. Don't douche in the shower is usually a sign that is posted at bathhouses and gay campgrounds. And
Really?
they post that, like a sign like that would say, like, like garage sale, like a sign like that, but it says don't douche in the shower. And that's because guys who want to have anal sex, they will put water up their ass and shit it out in the shower instead of going to the toilet stalls. And so
Oh.
when you shower in there, it's like someone shit on the floor, right? So the owners of those types of establishments, they have to put these signs up that say don't douche in the shower. And like the only people who would really know that is people who would go to those kind of places. So let that just be some information for your audience.
Never knew that. Never knew that. I don't go to places, but I
Yeah,
never knew that.
who would have known
Yes.
that don't douche in the shower is a real sign. It's a real sign in
Oh.
some places.
Just learned something new.
Yep.
Listen, everybody, once again, get your answers and grab a copy of Killer Burger. And listen, thank you for coming to the Horror Room.
Thank
I
you.
am Travis Bruce, and that's my man, Stephen Perrin, secular director.
See you next
We'll
time.
see you next time. Take care.